Have you ever thought about writing a book? Have you ever thought about writing a book? Well, in this episode, we're going to get a chance to look into how the results stream came about and the journey we went on in its creation. My name is Gabriel Griess, the host of the Navigating Leaders podcast, where we awaken your vision and live boldly. Today, our guest is my publisher, the founder and CEO of Harp Sword Media, a longtime media expert and publisher. His name is Marcos Perez. Marcos, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Gabriel.
How are you?
I'm good.
It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for the book.
Yes, sir. Well, my name is Marcos Perez, and I'm the guest host of Navigating Leaders for a
Wait,
day.
you're taking over?
For a day, just for a day,
Oh, gosh.
just for an episode.
Okay, all right.
And I have an incredible guest for you today. His name is Gabriel Griess,
Oh, that's me.
the founder of Navigating Leaders. But today we're pulling back the curtain. We're just it's gonna be a little bit of a different episode. Not just on the idea of the results tree, but on the journey of becoming an author, the process behind the book, what it really takes to bring something like this to life. I think it'd be fun to just unpack an episode and just bring people into the journey.
I couldn't have done it without you.
That's right. We couldn't have done it without you.
Fair enough.
And so I think it would be really beneficial for your listeners and your audience to just understand and learn from this experience and this journey. I think there's so much to unpack here, and so I think it'll be valuable.
Great.
Well, so we kind of broke the podcast episode into a few different chunks.
Okay.
The first thing that we want to do is to go into the origin story. So it's the origin of the results tree, why this book exists. So let's start there. Why this book and why now?
Well, the book has been about 25 years in the making, and then about 2 years in the publication process, right? And so it was so instrumental in my life, and it was kind of crazy because when you get into the book, you see the story of me applying the elements of the results tree, the vision, clear intention, committed action, results, and how I got into the Air Force Academy. Well before I ever was equated to anything like emotional intelligence or advanced leadership training or any of the things that later gelled together to be the book, The Results Tree. I was actually living it.
Yeah.
And so the beauty of that is that I knew it worked, right? That when I came into the construct of it and then looked back on my life, I could see moments in time where I genuinely was living and acting from my vision. And in doing so was creating these outsized, epic, amazing, life-changing, oh my gosh, results that frankly I wasn't worthy of, honestly, right? Like, you're like, wow, look at my wife, totally not worthy of her. Look at me going to the Air Force Academy. I was one of the last guys let into the class. Like these things where it's like, whew, only by the grace of God am I lucky to be here, right? And so why now is I think we've gotten too used to, 140 character tweet sized, social media post sized communications, and life is deeper than that.
Yeah.
Right. The juice, the marrow, the purpose of life is so much more impactful and powerful than that. And so I was able to bring all of that together into a book that ultimately is the results tree.
So you just talked about this 20 plus year journey, and you said that at some point in this journey that you realized it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point did you realize that this message needed to become a book and not just coaching or conversations?
I think probably in the teens, 2013, 14, somewhere in there. I was nearing the end of my military career, and I'd begun penning and keeping notes and journaling on the elements of it.
Yeah.
And then as associated with our company, Excel, we help doctors and nurses go to work. One of the things in our industry is that it's pretty commoditized. Like one staffing firm to the next staffing firm to the next staffing firm, they're a little hard to differentiate because the math is all the same. Like every staffing firm has similar costs and burdens and employment costs and software costs and all that stuff. And so the deal that's made to put somebody to work, everybody suffers under the same math. And so when you're now trying to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, it's a little challenging, right? So now you've got culture and you've got giveaways and you've got gimmicks and you've got all these different things. And so it was early in our company's history. I think I was actually interviewing employee number 5. I think it was number 4. And he was coming on to be our director of recruiting. I've known him for years. He'd been a club promoter in Las Vegas, super handsome, fit, jack dude, super outgoing. I'm like, if there's anybody designed to recruit, typically female nurses, like this is the guy. Like he's got all the skills. And he and I had both been through some emotional intelligence training together and some different workshops, and we'd also co-staff some things. And so I knew him well as a person. And so what was happening is in the interview, we were going over our values, our company values. And they kind of were hollow, frankly, as I listened to them. They were winning and excellence and clinician focused and adventurous and responsive and ethical. And I'm like, well, what other staffing firm wouldn't say that they're ethical, right?
Sure.
Or adventurous or want to be responsive? Like these are just sort of standard business things. And it hit me. I'm like, what are we going to do to differentiate ourselves? And I'm like, well, why don't we pour into our people? Let's coach our people. Let's invest in our people. And by people, I mean our traveling clinicians who are usually only with us, with an agency for about 13 weeks.
Yeah.
And they take a new job somewhere else unless they've extended. And so I'm like, well, how do we become more sticky? And the way to be more sticky was, well, hey, I'm going to pour into and invest in that clinician in a way that nobody ever has. And in doing so, when it comes time for their next job, they're going to be like, hey, I'm not going to go anywhere but be with Excel because
they've given me more than a job.
Yeah, they've helped me with my faith, finance, fitness, freedom, family, whatever it is. And the beautiful thing is, and this came from my coaching era, really, 08 to 15 or 16, when that same group I was working with, I was describing before, is we broke the year up basically into 90-day segments, right? And so that's almost exactly how long a clinician's on assignment, 13 weeks. And so I'm like, well, it's perfectly designed that at the start of an assignment, I can dig in with a clinician and go, hey, what do you want to do? Like, what would be meaningful in your life that if you could shift this over the next 13 weeks, it would add value, right? And then we have the perfect length of time to change a habit or to instill a new habit or to, repair a relationship or whatever it is, right? And so in that, then we needed a tool. Needed a tool in order to deliver that coaching and caring element for our company, and that ended up being the results tree.
Awesome. And so just to kind of dig down deeper into that just a little bit, what problem were you seeing over and over again that people just weren't solving that led you to the results tree?
Well, it's that we're just confused. The world is bombarding us with so much that we're constantly being shared. You should do this. You should look like this. You should buy this. You should drive this. You should wear this. You should go there on vacation. You should.
Yeah.
We're being should on all over the place. And the reality is the only thing we should be doing is what our purpose is, like why we were sent here. What is on our heart, right? And I would argue for the vast majority of medical clinicians, right, they're in it because they were called to it. And the only reason you stay in it is because you have a passion for it. It's sort of like teaching.
Yeah.
Right. It's, everybody loves teachers. We don't always pay them like we love them. We don't always honor them and respect them like we love them. Right. And the same thing kind of with nurses. And so, pouring into that group and giving them a technique with which to to truly and meaningful change their lives, and be grounded in that purpose, right? Because that's the whole point of this, is to find that purpose that each individual has and then begin to live from it.
So if the problem that you're seeing over and over again is confusion, it sounds to me like confusion, because having now worked with you on the results tree and seeing the message, unpacked the way that it is, one of the clear takeaways of the results tree that I've learned is action. Having solid vision that leads to repeatable action that leads to steps you can take. And so it sounds to me like confusion, a big problem you're seeing, is paralyzing people, and it's preventing them from either having clear vision or preventing them from being able to take whatever that next clear action step is towards their vision.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd quite go there, because you have some people who are highly successful by earthly standards who are highly confused.
Okay.
Right? They're winning in life ostensibly, apparently, they're just not on purpose. And so it's hard. Okay. Life is hard. They're grinding it out. They're going to a job that's soul sucking. They're working with a boss that is, not respecting them. They're in a company that they don't align with the culture. Their voice isn't being heard, like all these things, right? Well, each one of those is a sign, right, that you're not in the right place.
I see. So they've taken action, but not necessarily towards
some
the
have,
right
place. Some are paralyzed. Some are
Yeah.
preoccupied. Some are, some are just plain out lost, right?
So for someone hearing about the results tree for the first time, what is it simply?
It's simply a mechanism to help you find your vision and purpose for your life. And from there, everything begins. Right. But we've got to uncover what it is each of us individually is here for, because each of us has a very unique individual purpose. We're here to a life we're here to live.
Yeah.
And without uncovering that and without living from that, we're just running around, frankly, as a farm kid, like a chicken with her head cut off.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I appreciate about the results tree, there's a lot of books out there about vision and about purpose. I mean, Purpose-Driven Life is
Rick Warren,
best-selling nonfiction book of all
People
time.
should read it. It's a great book.
But what's interesting to me, though, about the results tree is its simplicity, is the simplicity of the framework. Vision, clear intention, committed action, results. And so,
well, and I would say two things on it. You're right. Vision, lots of books on vision. I don't know how good they are at helping you find your vision, right?
Yeah.
Clear intention, I think, is differentiated because now that intention attached to vision is something I'm willing to strain and struggle and continue through the fire on. Committed action, you can read 1,000 books on it, right?
Yeah.
You've got Compound Effect, Atomic Habits, Grit. The list continues, and they're all great books. And if you don't have a great action-related book, you need to get one.
Yeah.
I think where we really are groundbreaking in this is that how we use results, right? Results are the mirror. They're the feedback. They are, it's the truth teller, right? And this is the hardest part. It doesn't have to be, but it can be the hardest part for some people beginning this process, is the results you have today in your life are there because you want them. And there's a lot of people who'd be like, but I don't want, and they can now list 7, 8, 9, 10, 100 things in their life they don't want. And I would posit, no, you want them because you've created them.
Yeah.
Oh, but what about this? Or what about my mom? Or what about my dad? It's like, you're an adult. You've created the life you want. Now, the cool thing is you can change it.
Yeah.
But you must take responsibility for the place you are in life.
Yeah.
Right now is where you are.
Yeah. I love the way you've distilled somebody reckoning with where they are and the results that they're achieving. How the struggle that so many people go through in defining themselves by that. And you just kind of take that pressure off there and say, they may not be what you want, but great. Now we get to change it.
They're neutral, right? It's just a result is like, Harrison last night we went to a basketball game. He had some some basketball card or, some trading cards. So he opens it and the results are what you get out of the pack. If you don't like what's in the pack, get another pack, right? Or go to market and buy the card you want, right? But like, we're not changing. I'm not changing the result until I take an action today.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just feedback, right? And it's the most honest and pure feedback you can get because it's real and it's right in front of you. But you must come to grips with it and accept it and not judge.
Yeah.
And not make wrong and not develop shame and all that stuff that we can do, because those are all reasons to hold yourself back, all reasons to stop, all reasons to not take the next bold action and to maybe go back into the stands and look into the arena and then beat yourself up because, I don't belong out there anymore because I'm broken or I screwed up.
Yeah.
We're all broken. We all screwed up.
So many people draw just final conclusions out of whatever results they're achieving in the moment,
Yes.
as if that's the end result,
Yeah.
when it's not.
No, it's temporary.
Yeah. What are most people getting wrong when it comes to results in their life or leadership? And I think we've touched on some of that so far, but is there anything else you can say about that? What are most people getting wrong when it comes to results in their life or
Well,
leadership?
I think that they believe that it's final, that it's done, that it's over, that it can't be changed, that it's cast in stone, when in reality, everybody's so busy with their own lives. Most people don't know what you've done. They don't know the mistakes you've made. Heck, most of them can't remember your birthday.
Yeah.
So like, you get to forgive yourself and have some grace and connect with what matters and begin again,
Yeah.
right? Just begin again today.
Yeah. Love that. What's one concept from the book that if somebody really understood it, it could change everything for them?
That you're right where you're supposed to be. And tomorrow you'll be right where you're supposed to be.
You're right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Many people would disagree with that.
Well, but it's the only place you can be. So you can fight with me that you should be over there, but you're not. You're here.
Yeah.
So what do you want? What do you want to talk about? You're right here, Marcos. So let's deal with what is, not what should be, ought to be, any of that nonsense. And we burden ourselves. And I think it's not a burden. I think we paralyze ourselves intentionally, and then we make excuses not to take the actions we need to because we feel safe. Because we've tried so many times and we've failed. We've tried so many times and we've been hurt. We've become vulnerable and we've been abused or taken advantage of. We've made a business venture and gone broke. Like all these things, all these failures, if you will,
Yeah.
they hurt us, right? They hurt our hearts. They hurt our spirit. And Christy, my wife, would say, it's not rejection, it's protection. Right. So if I've stepped out in an endeavor and it didn't work, great. Awesome. Yes. Right. I went bankrupt. Yes. Awesome. Right. And I've almost been there. Right. So I haven't crossed the line, but I've stared it in the face. Right. And so, that's God's way of trying to nudge you back towards that purpose that's on our heart. And until we connect with that, and that's the vision piece, we're really just spinning our wheels. We're really wasting our time until we're on vision.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
And I would say you're a man of vision,
Yeah.
right? You're sitting here with a publishing company that
Yeah.
4 years ago was probably,
An idea.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've struggled with, and I've actually grown, I would say, in this area in particular, when it comes to you are right where you're supposed to be. That statement has grown a lot more comfortable on me since we've worked together. Because if you would have asked me that before we met, I would have almost never been comfortable telling you that I am right where I'm supposed to be. I'd always feel like I'm chasing where I'm supposed to be, But I think the concept of the results tree and how you're using results as a feedback loop and getting comfortable with where you are, I think is a new paradigm even for me, as a visionary even. So thank you.
Well, we have to be comfortable where we are because we can't be anywhere else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's and I know and I hate to say this, it's countercultural, right? Because no, you're 50, you should have this, or you're 60, you should have this, or you're 27, you should be married with your first kid. And I mean, like, there's all these artificial goals or barriers or expectations or
that
what
culture
have you.
puts on us. Yeah.
Yeah, or family or whomever. Like, they come at us from 1,000 different
Social
directions.
media.
Yes. We're trying to influence social media right now so that you buy the book and join the
That's right.
community and all that stuff. But we must be comfortable where we're at because it's the only place we are.
Yeah. Why do you believe most people stay stuck even when they want better results?
Well, I tell you, they don't, or they'd have them based on results. Now,
Because you're matching their desire with their
they've created
actions,
it.
or
They're here,
you know.
right? And this is, I know this is so hard and it's mind blowing, but it must be. We must take 100% responsibility for our lives and where we're at, because then we can change. But until that happens, all we're doing is beginning to build on an unstable foundation, right? We're laying the groundwork for future sabotage in whatever we may create, and in some ways intentionally so that when it does fail, I can look back and say, see, I knew it was never going to work. I shouldn't have started. I'm just going to stay here and stay stuck.
Well, what we've done so far, boys and girls, and for those listening, is trying to unpack some curiosity and some value behind the message to get people to understand the framework, the concept of where the book and the message is coming from, because I think this could be really helpful for a lot of people, as it even has been for me. What I'd like to kind of pivot towards is the actual publishing and writing journey.
Okay.
Just getting people kind of peel the curtain back a bit, as we said before. So let's talk about that journey. What surprised you most about writing a book?
What surprised me the most was how I found a publisher.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You wanted to touch on
I do.
on our journey of meeting.
Yeah, well, so you would ask the question of when did I know it was supposed to be a book? And it was probably, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. And then it rolled around. And then in about 2020, it really began to take some form. And then 2022, I was really like, all right, I need to figure this book thing out, right? I'd written a lot of pages and collected a lot of anecdotes and a lot of journal stuff. And so it was like, well, how do you do this? Right. And so I'd met with a couple of groups that could do the media, could do the production, could do the book, could just do all this stuff. And they were young and they were flashy and they were engaging and they said all the right things. And but it never felt right. And I'm like, but I want to do it. And they're so close and I like them and I think they're friends but it didn't feel right. Right. Like when I got still and quiet and in my soul, it was like, it's just not right.
Yeah.
And so we worked in a co-working space, Kevin, my partner, and I, and then our team is national. And we'd moved around the co-working space a couple of times. And so we'd left a much larger office because a ton of our workers had said, hey, we just would prefer to work from home. And so we downsized in this co-working space to a tiny, like an office that literally is not much bigger than this table and our two chairs. And I'm working late one night.
All right, let me pause you there.
Okay.
So this is 2022.
It is 22? Yeah, 22, 23.
23, probably 23.
Yeah, maybe early 23.
So I'm living out of town, almost 45 minutes away. My kids go to school here in Grapevine Faith, and we're bringing our kids to school from a long distance every day. I'm like, I got to find a co-working space. And I started looking at different places around town, found a spot, dropped the kids off at school, and I was on my way to that other co-working space when I saw this one right on Main Street.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I saw, oh, that's a co-working space, and it's a cool spot. So I get out and I go in there. I fall in love with the place. I sign up. That was early 2022. So now I'm in there for several months, and I'm going to the same seat every day. that I'm there. And that seat was right outside of your office.
Well, it wasn't our office yet.
Well, actually, you're right. Yeah, it was an empty office.
There were two guys
maybe,
that had it, but never ever showed up.
But I'm going to that same spot every day. They ended up leaving. You guys ended up coming in, and I just kind of saw you in passing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then several months go by.
Yep.
And then I'm there late one night working on a ghostwriting project, and also working on a couple of major proposals. And then you walk in, and so now we're at that same point in the story.
Yeah. So I'm inside the office, and
This was like a Friday night.
Yeah, it's like 6:30, 7:30, somewhere. It's way past working hours, and I come out the door, and for some reason I make conversation. I'm like, hey, you're working kind of late or whatever. Like it was just a natural conversation piece of like, hey, we're both too dumb to be at home or taking care of our families, doing something else. We're sitting here, right? And I'm like, well, what do you do? And you're like, I have a publishing company. And I'm like, tell me more. And you kind of tell me a little bit about it. And I'm like, I've got a book I want to write.
Yeah. I'm showing you a proposal of another coaching client. I'm like, yeah, check this out. Like, we're working on this media proposal, and I showed him this podcast thing and this book publishing thing and this other branding thing. And he's like, oh my gosh, that's like the kind of thing I need.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
And it's ultimately what gave way to navigating leaders.
Well, and I think what's beautiful about it is a couple of things is that A, I knew I had a book in me.
Yeah.
B, I'd met with people and it didn't feel right. And I didn't force it. Where in times past, I would have likely have forced that decision. Right. I would have been in a hurry, or I would have been urgent, or it would have been, whatever. But I chose not to. And then I think the most beautiful thing is that God literally put you outside my door.
Yeah.
Right. Like I where that desk was and where the door was, like if you put your bag down in the wrong place, I was going to trip over your bag on my way out of the office. Yeah. So,
I mean, yeah. So that is definitely a great answer to what surprised you most about writing a book was the journey on how we even met.
Yes.
Is certainly a huge surprise. What part of the process was harder than you expected?
I think the number of edits, right? The refining of the product, tweaking of stories. It's interesting is that Thomas Jefferson said he would have been more brief if he'd had more time, right, with the Declaration of Independence, right? And so I think that was one of the elements in refining. Not that I'm not comparing the results to the Declaration. That's not the point. The point is the authorship and the writing process I'm referencing, and each version, became more clear, became more succinct. I know we cut stories that just kind of hung a little bit, like we were trying to give meaningful experiential stories from other people, and it just they just didn't translate the way we wanted them to, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, well, there's so many exercises, there's so many opportunities to dig in, and even in the foreword, we ask people to read chapters multiple times and mark it up and take notes that the story to be written is their story, right? The person who buys the book, when they're done with the book or done with the e-course, what they've done is they've written their story.
Yeah. I will say, working with hundreds of authors over the years, it's a very common misnomer to think that the editing process is just either a quick thing or that it's they're just going to correct some grammar and then we move on. What truly a good editor is going to offend you in many cases, because the manuscript is your baby. I mean, you've worked so hard on this, and now we're going in and we're just slashing stuff and cutting things, and and it could be a really offensive process, especially as a first timer, and I have to say, you were as many rounds as we had in the editing process, you've been a dream to work with as a client, just in terms of your grace, your positive attitude. It's not always been that way with other authors. And so thank you for your grace. But
thanks for your patience.
But yeah, it could be a grueling process, the editing.
Yeah. Well, I think and that's it, is like, you've got editors and typesetters and proofers and there's a whole industry behind putting words on the paper and turning them in, right? You see the movies, right? Misery or whatever, the people show up with their shoebox and all the typeset and they turn it in and you're like, oh, it's a book. It's like not even close to a book. Like it's an idea on paper.
Well, and that leads me to the next question. Where did you feel the most resistance or doubt in the process?
Well, I really got vulnerable in the book. To the point that like the first time Christy read some of it, she's like, "You're going to publish this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Well, it's the truth, like what else are we going to, know, like." And I honor her for her courage and her trust and her willingness. I mean, we put some stuff out there that it's certainly not flattering. Right. And, I did a lot of things I'm not proud of in my life. And, but I don't know that I'd change anyone because I wouldn't be who I am or where I am.
That's right.
Like if I could take away hurts or I could take away wrongs or I could take away disappointments that maybe I caused others, then I would totally, make amends for those things.
Yeah.
But in terms of changing my path or trajectory, I don't think I can because it gave me perspective.
Well, and I think I would even argue that those things that you're not proud of become the greatest hooks for this very message, because we just in a lot of these episodes we just hear the shiny, polished, fancy stuff, but I think what makes the message most relatable are those moments,
Well, and that was one of the early pieces, and one of the edit pieces was I added the introduction, right? The introduction got plugged in during one of the other elements, and it says all of us have areas in our lives we've avoided, issues we haven't confronted, habits we haven't broken, conversations we haven't had, commitments we have failed to keep to others, and more importantly, to ourselves. We push these things aside hoping they'll fix themselves or that we'll get to them eventually. If we're honest, we know the truth. These areas are out of alignment with the kind of life we say we really want. When we ignore what's broken or out of place, we set the stage to sabotage our own success. And that was my entire life, basically from age, 0, but call it maybe 16 to almost 36. So almost 20 years of my life, I was building upon a fractured foundation. And in the book, what you find out is that I didn't love myself. And I've talked about that here in the podcast, right? Is that if I don't love myself, then by default, I'm unlovable.
Yeah.
And if I'm unlovable and you love me, well, that makes you even more damaged good than I am, because you're pretty dumb to love me because I'm unlovable. Like it's this really vicious
dysfunction. Yeah.
It's 100%. And so I had to come to grounds with loving myself. And then from that point, begin to have grace and forgiveness, and to reflect and to start to make different choices, right? And that was the watershed moment, probably really when I went from being a boy to a man, frankly.
Wow. What did working through the structure of the book force you to clarify that you hadn't fully articulated before? You had a good answer for that when we were talking about this in planning.
What did I tell you? Because I think
you were talking about the, you have the results tree framework, but you're setting people up for failure if you don't.
That's it's the introduction right there. What I just went to, right? Is we got to clean stuff up, right? And so we're not building on a faulty foundation.
Yeah.
And
in other words, your situation's not unique in that we all screwed up. We've all got 100% background. We've all 100%. We're all human. We all got things we got to deal with before we get to the place where we can build from a healthy place.
Well, and I would invite everybody today, right, who's listening, is there is somebody who you owe a phone call to, either to say, I'm sorry, or I respect you, or I honor you, or I love you, or, hey, can we have a do-over, or I could have done this differently, like whatever it is. Yeah. And my encouragement would be is, to make that call, because there's a burden we carry in the back of our mind when we have stuff that's messy and out of alignment, right? And
so just to distill that down to the book itself, for those listening, when you read the results tree, you're going to have the benefit of being introduced to the message first from a place of, hey, you may have a few things you need to touch on here before we actually get into the good stuff of the book.
Yep.
That's going to help you to really identify your vision and walk through to the results that you want. There's a little site planning that needs to be done before we start the construction work.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
So that's good. Who is the book really for?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think there's a couple of different audiences, right? The first would be my kids, because I don't know, I don't know if it's a New York Times bestsellers or a bargain basement, discount book, right? Like, we don't know.
Yeah. So it's a legacy project for you.
Yeah. There's a piece of it there. Right. And there's a transparency and an honesty piece. Like, I've asked my eldest especially to read it, because there's unflattering stuff, and I don't want, a friend or a parent or somebody to read it and be like, hey, did you know your dad did X, Y, or Z? And you'd be like, what? And so, it's been good conversation there, but in general, who I would say the book is for people who feel like they really have been doing it right, or living by the rules, or following the rules, or doing what they were told they thought would be successful, that would create the results that they thought they were here to create in their life. And they just don't feel like they're getting any traction. Right. And sometimes when we're not winning in life, meaning achieving what it is we're looking for, we look at that as rejection. We look at that as failure. And the answer we would say it's protection, right? You're not supposed to be successful in that domain, because that's not the domain you're here for. Right. And so, this book is really designed to help people uncover that vision that only they can achieve, that's written on their heart, that was written on their heart at the dawn of time, right? When the universe was first begun, right? We were in that ripple.
Yeah.
Right. We were in that energetic movement. Right. And so we have a part to play. We have a role in this giant script, in this giant, cinematic display that is life, that is the world. And until we get on that script, right, we're fighting with the director. We're fighting with the producer. We're causing do-over. Like, we're making a mess of it. And so this is for that person who has tried so many things, has tried so many solutions, has followed, people on Instagram or Facebook that are giving them, the little meme answer, and it's work.
Yeah.
Right. It's work to uncover your purpose. But once you've got it, you'll never let it go.
I want to read something here that I uncovered just in a little bit of research that I did before this episode. My two oldest sons are, I would say, on the older echelon side of Gen Z.
Okay.
So I would say from their age group, which is high 20s, mid to high 20s, to millennials, which were born, there's a few different there's a few different year gaps depending on who you're asking in terms of where these generational gaps or categories lie. But millennials born 1981 and 1996 to this older Gen Z crowd. I would say that when we talked about the avatar of who the book was for, we were kind of aiming at that 20 to 40s,
25 to 45 kind of thing, yeah,
type of age group. So for the folks in that category, there's a lot of them that are currently facing intense challenges driven by high burnout rates. Research shows here 66%, financial instability, 52% living paycheck to paycheck, significant mental health struggles. Key stressors include managing $1.56 trillion in U.S. student loan debt, navigating a competitive job market, balancing high cost of living. There's just so many challenges, right? So what would you say to them as it relates to the results tree and what it can do for them?
Well, first I'd say is don't buy into the narrative, right? You just read a bunch of statistics, and I'm not saying the math is wrong, but it's generalized, right? All of those statistics probably don't apply to every single individual.
Sure.
So some might have loan debt, but not living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Or some might be burned out, right? But so like some of that may be true for some of the individuals, but not all of it's true for all of them.
Well, and the reality too is that challenges like this, not the same, but challenges like this are somewhat cyclical generation to generation.
100%.
And it's great for those who are dealing with challenges in these arenas to know you're not alone, right? There's a generation of people that are fighting the same fight with you. But it's also, history has a tendency to repeat itself. And so there is a sense of, gosh, the previous generation didn't set me up right. But then every generation said that.
Every older generation looks at the younger generation like, oh, we're doomed. Oh, it's going to, like the grumbly old guy, right? But like I was literally at a lacrosse game the other day talking to like 3 high school sophomores, and they are so articulate and so attuned and emotionally intelligent and so relationship oriented. It's awe-inspiring. I'm like, whoa, like they're eons beyond where I was, right? But back to the question of what do you say to these folks, and that is, A, you don't have the benefit of time yet.
Yeah.
Right. So one of my favorite books is called The Compound Effect, and compound effects work in your favor and they work against you. Right. So if I make a series of bad decisions over and over and over again over time, that compounding effect is going to be horrible. Right. If I eat a pint of ice cream every night after dinner for 20 years, I'm going to be way overweight. But instead of having a pint of ice cream, I decide to walk around the block 3 times. I'm going to have a material difference, like a massive difference between those 2 people over a 20-year period, right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to probably see a difference at 18 months or even 36 months.
Right.
Right. It's going to take years for a statistical difference to show up. And so to the person who doesn't feel like they're getting anywhere right now is we just haven't had enough time. And so it's get grounded in your vision, show up every day and make good decisions aligned to your vision, make more good decisions than bad decisions. Give yourself grace. Only fight today's battle because tomorrow has enough worries of itself. And repeat that over and over and over again. And be gracious and enjoy the journey.
So it sounds to me that that's what transformation actually looks like for someone who applies this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it takes time. But here's the other part, and this is one of my favorite things, is that like a body at rest tends to stay at rest.
Yeah.
A body emotions tend to stay emotion until acted upon by an outside force. Right. And so if I'm stuck and I'm staying stuck, it's really hard for anything good to happen.
And that's actually my next question. What would you say to someone who feels stuck right now and doesn't see a way out?
Well, first off, it would be do the introduction and start cleaning some stuff in your life and then begin the journey to find your vision. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's make actions and decisions on a daily basis that are aligned with and go back to your vision. Right. And that's the joy. And then, and frankly, we don't get to be attached to results. I don't get to be attached to the destination.
Takes the pressure off. Yeah.
I get to be attached to the practice. I get to be attached to the journey. I get to be attached to showing up and doing my best in this moment with the tools and resources I have.
It becomes an actually manageable dance.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Rapid fire, memorable moments.
I'm totally
that we're about to.
I'm really good at short
go
answers.
Here. What's one sentence from the book that means the most to you personally?
You're right where you're supposed to be.
Love it. What's the biggest lie people believe about success?
That when I achieve it, everything will be taken care of.
That you hit the easy button eventually?
Yeah, I mean, like when I
that life doesn't get hard.
Well, success. You just see, I gave you an answer. And I asked,
sorry.
This is on you. Now it's like it's like the attorney doesn't ask an open-ended question to the person in the juror box because then they go wide open, right? But so I'll just be quiet.
What mindset has had the biggest impact on your results?
To love yourself. And that's the number one rule in the Bible.
Well,
right?
you gave me a different answer before, similar, but you said that you're lovable.
Yeah. Love yourself.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the answer we're both love and self-related.
that's right.
Because usually I don't do so well like that.
If someone only read one chapter, which one should it be?
Chapter 2 on vision. Because it's the beginning.
Because it starts there,
Yeah.
What do you hope that people experience after reading the results tree?
That life isn't as complicated as it's made out to be.
Mm-hmm.
That it's digestible, that I can eat the elephant, that there is a process. Yeah.
Hope and inspiration.
Yeah, there's a process.
You said a great, this is actually, we're probably going to take this and make it like a social media meme because it's a great 2-sentence statement you made before. Action generated from vision will lead to inspiration. Action not aligned with your vision will lead to exhaustion.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, and that's where most people live, right? They're chasing shoulds and ought tos that have been generated by parents, friends, social media, culture, church, wherever it is, right? They've been burdened with these things, and there's too many of them, and none of them are you.
Yeah.
But they're chasing them all because they're supposed to, and then they wonder why they're exhausted.
Yeah. So I'll repeat that statement again just because I think it's worth repeating. Action generated from your vision will lead to inspiration. Action not aligned with your vision will lead to exhaustion. If there's one thing I'd say the reader can take away from reading the results tree is that they will develop a life of action that's generated from vision, which leads to inspiration.
Yeah, and then I can get through anything.
Yeah.
But if I can wake up in the morning energized, encouraged, inspired, then I can get after it. But if I'm like, oh, not another day, really?
Yeah.
I got to go back to that desk. I got to show up to that boss. I got to pay that bill. Like that's life. That's soul sucking.
2 final questions, easy ones. Where should people go to get the book and connect with Gabriel Griess?
Navigatingleaders.com. You can get to everything, right? You can learn about our e-course and the workbook that goes along with that. That's coming out.
You can get a free chapter, by the way.
And the free chapter.
The free chapter you'll get will be chapter 1, which is not the most important chapter you're supposed to read. Chapter 2 is. So hopefully you read chapter 1 and you like it so much, you'll be like, well, I know chapter 2 is the most important. So if there's any reason to buy the book, it's just to read chapter 2.
It's like we had a marketing person set this up.
That's it. I'm telling you.
Yeah, so navigatingleaders.com. You can join our community, get to our socials there. You can buy the book.
And what's next for you and Navigating Leaders?
Continue to grow the community, right? This journey is foreign. It is weird. Mm-hmm. It is odd. It is special in that you're choosing to do something that in many ways nobody else around you is doing.
Yeah.
And you're choosing to live from a place of responsibility and commitment to self and surrender and faith and joy and forgiveness. Like all these things we say we want, there's a mechanism to get them here.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that might be terrifying for some people because it'll be a change. It'll be a change.
Especially the early part that you got to work through before you get into the meat of the book.
Yeah.
Doing that early work, going into the closet could be pretty terrifying. So I would encourage you not to do it alone, to do it in community.
Yeah.
And so speaking of which, we've touched on that, but there will eventually be a community here very soon online where
folks can join us on our socials. And whatnot.
I mean, you can join the socials now.
Yeah.
But eventually we will have an actual coaching community that you can access through Navigating Leaders. And there'll be an e-course there, the Results Tree Experience, that you'll be able to engage with here very soon.
Yep.
And
it's already produced. It's in final edits.
We're in final edits. We're building that infrastructure now for the digital community. And the intention there is, again, for you not to do this alone, for you to be able to, do life in community with like-minded people.
And you're going to screw up.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to fail. We're going to fall off the horse. We're going to scuff our knees. We just got to get back up and do it again, right? And that's the value of the community, right? Is that's the value of the accountability. That's the value of having a group that's in this as well, right? And all we have to do is remember.
Yeah.
Remember why we're doing it. Remember our vision. Remember our purpose, and recommit to that, right? Knowing that energizing inspiration is if it's not here yet, it's coming, right? It's just around the corner, and it's worth having, right?
Yeah.
That's life isn't supposed to be drudgery and painful, and it's not, right? It's hard, right? But when we're on purpose, it begins to unfold.
Yeah.
Right. We're still going to be refined, right? We're still going to come up against things in life because growth, as we've said in prior episodes, growth requires discomfort. You can't grow in the comfort of your comfort zone.
That's right.
Right. But as I get better at growing, I get more comfortable being uncomfortable to the point where I will intentionally make myself uncomfortable because I know the growth is coming.
Yeah.
And it's valuable and it's worth having.
Well, Gabriel, thank you for your investment that you're making in the lives of others and growing leaders. And I think it's a worthy cause to help work with you on. And we're just honored to play a small role in helping make it happen. So thank you for the journey so far. I hope this has been helpful to each of you that have been listening and watching. And we look forward to growing this community together. So thank you.
We couldn't have done it without you, Marcos. Really, really appreciate it.
Awesome.
So, well, hey, as we wrap all these, I'm certain that something in here struck a chord, right? Maybe there's something in here that will lead you to want to get the book. Please do. Maybe it'll lead you to say, hey, I think this is a book for somebody else. My invitation would be to get your own copy and share it so that you're on that journey with your friend or loved one that you were inspired to reach out to.
Listen, free food tastes better when it's free.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you this reads a whole lot better when it's free. So give it to someone.
There you go. Let's do that. So thank you for joining us again. Thank you for giving us your time. Thank you for participating and sharing and choosing to take yourself on, choosing to have a different perspective, choosing to learn something new, right? That's the joy. That's the essence of this. So my name is Gabriel Griess, the host of the Navigating Leaders podcast, and my co-host, Marcos Perez today. Thank you, Marcos. You were amazing. Until next time, be well. God bless.